Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Authentic Info Podcast. I'm your host, Admir Sandel Chawuk. On the 10th of September, the ANC Youth League held its 79th celebration in Mpumalanga. Now, the question is the Youth League still relevant? Is this the Youth League that carries a generational mission that everyone relates to? A lot of people have been asking the very same question, and I think it needs to be addressed because young people back in the days were represented by the Youth League to fight for their battles. And the Youth League was known as an organization which was some sort of an alternative in the ANC for young people, where young leaders were groomed and had to emerge from that structure in order to occupy national level leadership. So the ANC Youth League of today has been accused of so many things. Fikile Mbalula is accused of hijacking the ANC Youth League for his personal gain, saying that he want to hijack the structure so that it helps him to become president in the next term or in the next elective conference of the ANC 5 years to come. Now, other than that, there have been questions when it comes to Colin Malaj, who's the current president of the Youth League. And other than that, there are also questions as to how the structure was formed or nominated and things like that, because they accuse Malusi Gigaba and the likes of Fikile Mbalula to have been collaborated to try and create a structure that will fight their own battles. But other than that, people have been comparing each and everyone that comes into leadership after the generation of Bo Julius Malema and the likes of Floyd Chibambo. They've been comparing to them because that's a structure that served only for less than 3 years, but it had an impact in the lives of the young people and the people in South Africa. And it was able to hold to account the leadership of the ANC. These are the senior leaders like Bo Zuma, who were questioned on the land matter or on the land issue, which led to that generation of Bo Julius Malema to be expelled, and to show that they represented and understood that generational mission. They carried that mission to form a new political party called the EFF, where they continued to advocate for what the likes of Fikile Mbalula says that it's a copy and paste from the Freedom Charter. Now, the question is, why are these ANC people, knowing very well that they have a Freedom Charter as a document or policy document, why are they not implementing that Freedom Charter but guarding against it? So these are some of the questions that a lot of people have been raising. And we have seen the current ANC Youth League president, Colin Malaj, advocating for things like SASSA grants to be increased to 4,500, advocating for things like the grants for unemployed youth who have qualifications and things like that, but not talking about things like job creation and opportunities for business for young people. Now, the question is the ANC Youth League still relevant? A lot of political experts and analysts were saying that there was no need for the EFF to have revived the ANC Youth League since it died, and the ANC was able to function without the ANC Youth League. We know that in the ANC Youth League there is a committee, an integrity committee, which is supposed to hold to account its deployees or delegates. But this is a committee which lacks tooth. But Andrew Mlangen fought very hard for this committee to continue to thrive in the ANC, but it was looked down at, and no one in the ANC wants to take responsibility. Now, another question is the Youth League of today going to be able to hold to account the ANC itself? Is the Youth League of today going to check the generational mission of the previous structures of the Youth League and check what is it that has been accomplished, and try to make sure that they continue with that mission and make sure that it is achieved? Or are we going to see a youth league that lacks tooth like the youth league of Colin Maine, which didn't bite, and its leader was found to have been collaborated with the Guptas. He was found to have took money from the Guptas, and they did nothing to revive the ANC Youth League. So after the ANC Youth League came back to existence, there are a lot of expectations from the Youth League, but it seems like it is not ready to talk about the mother body. It is still focusing on issues of fighting Julius Malema, or trying to prove why the likes of Julius Malema were expelled, and trying to prove to us that they are going to be a different ANC Youth League compared to that of Julius Malema. So it seems like they are in a mission, or they are given a mission to try and crush the history which was created by the generation of Bo Malema, Bo Floyd Shibambu, and the likes of the current Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Ronald Lamola, who fought very hard with the people like the late Cindy Samagat, who fought very hard to make sure that the ANC adopt its policy, and to make sure that the ANC continues, or to make sure that the ANC implement its manifesto, its promises to its people. So this was a youth league which was very vibrant. This was a youth league which was not even scared to call the president to account, or to hold the president to account. Are we going to see this youth league holding President Ramaphosa to account? What are their views when it comes to Palameta and things like that? So it seems like this is a youth league which is very quiet, which is irrelevant, and I think it shouldn't have come back, because most of the political parties in South Africa are moving to the type of leadership where they include young people even in parliament. So there is no need to have student organizations, and after that we have a youth league, and after that you have the mother body, because the student organizations, it is where young people should learn and understand politics, so that as soon as they leave and they go to an employment environment, they must join the senior leadership and be part of senior leaders in such a political party. But this has been different when it comes to the ANC. The ANC still want to have the structures in universities or institutions of higher learning and still maintain the youth league. So, which means it still want to continue to create a succession plan, which will still make it difficult for young people to occupy higher level positions in the ANC. So in the national executive of the ANC, we will still see older people, and we know that the way the structure of a particular organization is, it's a true reflection of how their government is going to be, or how their government is. That is why in South Africa, we are led by older people in different ministerial portfolios. We are led by very older people when it comes to the generals that exist in the security cluster and things like that, because this is a reflection of the ANC, or the political party that is ruling South Africa currently. So whatever the structure is, they have to take from those leaders and allocate them duties as ministers, deputies, as directors, and things like that, heads of departments. So when the ANC still revive the youth league, they can see that there is no room for young people in the national executive. And it must be very difficult for one to occupy senior level leadership in the ANC and in government, because these structures are there to delay them. We see a lot of people who are above the age of 35 who are still running with kids in the ANC Youth League. So it becomes very difficult to understand whether the Youth League will come and still have that tooth to bite, because the current president of the ANC Youth League, seem to be someone who is very friendly to the president. And I don't think that when it is time for them to hold him to account, it will be easy for a person of his caliber to speak or to try and push that mission to hold to account its leaders. Because one of the things that I think has caused everyone to be comfortable in corruption and sleeping in parliament and not putting more effort in the duties that are vested in them through these portfolios is because there's no one to hold to account the other or those DPOs or delegates who are in parliament, who are in provincial level, and those who are in municipalities and things like that. Everyone is for themselves, and even the president finds it very difficult to recall some of the underperforming ministers, deputies, and all leaders in the ANC. So if we have a structure like the ANC Youth League, which comes to be friends with the president, which still mobilize using SASA grants and things like that, I don't think it's a structure which they should have revived, because it's just like some preschool or environment where young people who are waiting to be deployed to national will be roaming in that environment or in that street of the youth league. So I don't think it was supposed to come back, and I don't think that it will make any difference. I mean, they've elected that structure for quite some time now, and the president took time to address, saying that they still need to consult with the branches, they still need to move around. And when you hear him speak, he's very ambitious. He's not someone who is in the youth league to lead. I think the position that he held as member of parliament, or as one of the youngest leaders in national level, has caused him to feel untouchable, and it makes him to neglect his duties as the president of the youth league. And it makes him to lose the focus, because he's not seen doing anything anywhere. It doesn't have that. This is a youth league that doesn't carry a generational mission. They have no mission. There's nothing to achieve. And every time when he speaks, he just talks about these ambitions to be president of South Africa one day. Well, we know that the ANC Youth League has produced ministers, deputy presidents, and presidents of the country. But still, people need to work very hard. People need to be seen doing something. We know that everyone who have been there until the generation of Julius Malema in the ANC Youth League, they ended up becoming something, and they had a mission that they had to achieve. And they did such, because even the likes of Julius Malema, even after he was expelled, he carried on the mission or the generational mission that they carried in the ANC Youth League. They moved with it to form the the EFF, and created the so-called 7 cardinal pillars. And ANC was very angry and started to speak, while they didn't see that they were hitting themselves on the toe, because when they speak against what is in their documents and saying that people are stealing their policy, because this is the policy of the people. This is the policy that needs to be implemented so that it helps black people. And if you don't implement it and you don't want any other political party to do so, it means you hate your people. You don't want to help your people. So the last ANC Youth League to have a mission was that of Bo Floyd, Julius Malema, Sindisa, and Ronald Lamola, and everyone else of that generation. That was Andile Lungisa and things like that. That was the last generation. And then after that came Colin Maine, who collaborated with the Guptas. We only saw him with his girlfriend, taking trips and drinking and doing nothing progressive. You know, he abused that structure, and I think it led to it being disbanded. And now it came back with another Colin, and we don't know whether it's going to make any difference. But I think as someone who is determined to lead, we should now not be asking ourselves questions as to what is it that they represent, what is it that, what is their mission as a generation of, or as the current generation of the ANC Youth League, because still it doesn't have a presence, it lacks weight, it lacks truth, and still the ANC, through its structures in institutions of higher education, or SASCO, the Young Communist League, and even the ANC Youth League itself, they are not winning anything in these institutions of higher education, even though the ANC Youth League has been revived. I mean, the likes of Julius Malema used to move around universities and colleges, helping their structures to mobilize, because they know that youth leaders comes from universities and colleges, and you cannot neglect them during their elections. You must be part of their campaign. Your face must be used in all universities to win the structures in these universities. But with the current president, we don't know what he is doing. He's just there trying to mock all the people in the ANC, and it doesn't sound like he means it, because he's saying that the parliament shouldn't be treated as a retirement village and older people must be removed. But everyone who is in parliament in the ANC is very old. I think 85% of their cabinet consists of people who are over the age of 60. And Colin Malaji failed to even mention one who he thinks is very useless. So what type of ANC Youth League generation is this? Because we know that the generation of, or the previous generation of the likes of Malema, they mentioned names whenever there were matters concerning certain individuals. They will call out their names so that we know what they are talking about. But with this one, we see him smiling with the president, we see him hugging these ANC elders and collaborating and conniving with them. So we don't know what his mission is. Maybe he's there to block young, energetic youth who want to be part and grow through the ranks of the ANC. So the ANC Youth League lacks truth. It is irrelevant, and the way the structure was elected, it's not. It didn't follow transparent procedures. A lot of people who are ANC and who are young, they don't agree with Colin Malaji on so many issues. And a lot of them did not know him. When we ask them, they say they don't know this guy. But they draw the party line. They have to support him until someone who they know is elected. I also didn't think that a person like him would be contesting to be the president of the Youth League. But because he is someone, and they've been identified, is someone who's very ambitious. I saw him in one of the interviews recently on a podcast where he was saying that he is going to be president and we must prepare for that. Well, it's a great speech, but he is already president of the Youth League now. What is he doing? What are his promises to the people or to the youth of South Africa in the next 5 years? He is there. They are still talking about and protecting Cadre deployment. I mean, in 2023, how do you talk like that? Because when a political party is elected and becomes a ruling party, what it does is that it must include everyone else, including their competitors or those who oppose. When they lead or when they create jobs equally for everyone. And then you cannot say that the jobs must only be available for those who agree with the policies of the government of the day, which means that anyone else who is not affiliated with the ANC will not get a job under the ANC-led government, which is bad, which doesn't make sense, because they have to include everyone. When there are jobs, proper jobs, those who qualify, regardless of political affiliation, they must be considered, they must be shortlisted, they must be interviewed, and the best must get that particular opportunity and go and serve the people based on qualifications, based on credentials or credibility. Because now the ANC Youth League of today is talking about the so-called experience, political affiliation, agreeing with the government of the day, and things like that. And we know that when they talk about this, they say you must be ANC, you must know the policies of the ANC. Other than that, whether you have qualifications or you're qualified, they will prefer their comrades. So it's a bad mission because we are sitting on embarrassing levels of unemployment. And I think to have a youth league which was recently revived, to have someone who speaks about Cadre deployment and supporting and protecting Cadre deployment, I think we are moving a few steps back instead of moving forward as a country, because these are the people who should advocate for the youth and not for the youth of the ANC. This is Authentic Info Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let us grow together. Thank you.